Hello team, welcome back to another episode of Nutrition Talks with me, Tyson the Trainer. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, you can see my lovely background here with the Harry Potter series that I've got. I have not read all of them again. I've read them all before, but now I've brought them to have little background props to make it look like that I'm a reader, because that's what I started to do. I started reading a little bit. And funnily enough, that has actually really helped with my REM sleep, which has been really, really cool. We can use fitness watches such as Apple Watch, Fitbit, any of those things, and they do track your sleep. Now, these things aren't 100% accurate, okay? No matter what fitness tracker you use, it's never going to give you 100% accuracy, but it kind of gives you a bit of a ballpark, right? We never want to use these things as the end-all be-all. So if you wake up and you're feeling good, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go train, and then your whoop is like, oh, you didn't sleep well last night, you're not gonna have a good workout, and you're like, oh, actually, yeah, I didn't have a good workout. I didn't have a good sleep last night. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, you just changed your opinion based on some piece of technology. You can't let that be the end-all be-all, right? So it's a tool to give you some feedback. And again, if it aligns quite commonly, where you should, when you wake up in the morning or whatever it is, if you are tracking your sleep, think about how you feel, okay? Think about how rested and refreshed you are. Then check your watch and see if it's close enough or if it's different, right? Because this is how it kind of gives you accurate feedback in a way. Now, one thing it'll give you is your different types of sleep. So you have your deep sleep, your REM sleep, and it'll say awake time. It'll probably say stress. I'm just doing what my Garmin says. So it says wake minutes, deep sleep. Does it say light sleep? I'm pretty sure it does. Stress, those type of things, right? When I started reading a book before bed, one thing I've always kind of struggled with is my REM sleep. And like, when I say struggle, it's just like, I never really, my fitness watch always told me I have low REM sleep. And for me, I was never really a big dreamer. Never really dreamed a lot at all, actually. And funnily enough, when I would smoke weed, you don't dream anyways. And weed actually ruined your REM sleep. So, it was a catch-22, right? I would smoke weed at night to go to sleep. I wouldn't get REM sleep. And REM sleep is important. And like I know I wouldn't dream. I would just wake up and my fitness watch would also say, you're not getting any REM sleep. And then my brother, he got these tattoos for his birthday, for his 21st birthday. He got all these like weird symbols and stuff on his arm, and he read this series called Red Rising. And I'm like, if you're that obsessed with a book series that you got a tattoo, you got your arms tattooed from this book series, I'm going to give it a read. I'm going to have a look. So I downloaded the first one on Kindle, and it was actually really, really good. And I'm not a huge fiction reader. Like when I was younger, I read Harry Potter, I read Hunger Games, I read all the trendy ones, I didn't read, what was the vampire one called that everyone was frothing over? I never read that one, like the fucking glitter vampires. Oh, I can't remember what that was called, but I didn't bother with that. Anyways, so Red Rising is kind of like that series of book. It's very similar to Hunger Games. And because I was like, oh, I'll read this before bed, because for me, it's like fiction is just something I do when I don't have anything else to read, basically. And I was like, all right, I'll read it before bed. It'll help me get to sleep. Basically, from the first day I started reading fiction books, I started to notice my REM sleep went straight up, and I was dreaming. I was like, whoa, like it was so random that I was like, oh, I'm having pretty fucking vivid dreams here. And then my watch is like, my watch told me I'm having more REM sleep. And for the last 2 weeks, every night, I'm like, all right, I'm going to be reading this book. And funnily enough, and also I realized, like, funnily enough, not only am I getting REM sleep, the longer I read, the more REM sleep my watch tells me I have. So I'd read for about 15 minutes before bed. And now I've started reading for about half an hour before bed. And my REM sleep has gone up to like 2 hours a night. I'm like, holy fuck. So this is a cool thing. Again, you can't use technology as end-all be-all. But if you try something to experiment with your sleep, and then you start to notice on the watch, if you are tracking those metrics, like let's say again, you want to do what I do. You're like, I wonder if this can improve my sleep. So you do one thing, and then you see if from that day, when you start to add that thing in, does it change anything in regard to your sleep outcome? If you can correlate it quite tightly to you started doing this, and then this outcome started happening, then it's probably quite accurate, right? So that's one thing you can test. Now, in saying this, again, you only want to change one variable at once. Okay, so whatever you're going to test, you test one variable, and then you see what the outcome is, and then you can test another variable. If you're like, okay, I'm going to start reading before bed, I'm going to get off my phone, I'm going to go to sleep half an hour earlier, I'm going to tape my mouth shut with this breathing tape, I'm going to wear a nose dilator, I'm going to do all these other things. It's like, you can't pick which one is actually the benefitter. Which one's going to benefit you most. And like, they might all work, but it's like, okay, so you have to do 5 or 6 different things every night in order to get good quality sleep. Whereas you try one thing at a time and you see if it works. And if it doesn't, you try something else. Or if it does, and then you want to add something else to see if that also does benefit or not, that is a good way to go about it. So that's just some sleep tips I wanted to share with you guys, and one thing that I noticed for myself. So if you have been struggling with sleep and you want to try and increase particularly REM sleep, maybe try reading a book before bed and escape reality. If you guys are enjoying this podcast, make sure to give this a like, to give it a share, tag me on Instagram that you enjoyed it, and I'll speak to you guys in the next episode.